Hello and welcome to One Talk Show. This is our regular weekly program which broadcasts on OROMIA11. As usual, we have a discussion on issues about US politics, about local politics, about immigrant life stories, success stories, and in between. Today I have a special guest and a special edition on US politics. My special guest today is Amane Badhasso, who has already released her campaign, who started campaigning to run for U.S. Congress, representing Minnesota's 4th congressional district. So we will have a conversation about her plan to run for congressional seat. Welcome to One Talk Show, Ms. Amane Badhasso.
Thank you so much, Obo Mathias, and thank you so much to OROMIA11 for giving me the opportunity to have a conversation with you today.
Before we start conversation about your campaign,
sounds good.
Tell me your life story in 4 short and articulated, in 4 E's: your early childhood, your education, your experience, and your expectations.
Right. No, I appreciate that question. So I was born in Ethiopia. I was born in a rural village in the Oromia region. And I left, I would say I was forced into being a refugee in Kenya and stayed in Kenya until I was about 13 years old. And I came to Minnesota as a 13-year-old, grew up in Minnesota, and had the opportunity to obviously go to high school, middle school here, early education here. And I went to Hamline University, right here in my district, in the 4th Congressional District. And I studied political science, but I focused on pre-law as well. And so I was very much interested in leadership and really understanding how our government worked and ultimately seeing if we can build people power in the future.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I heard and I saw on social medias and other outlets that you already released your campaigning for the seat, and did you get any endorsement so far?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have the endorsement of one of the most brilliant, bold, and progressive leaders in our in the city I live in, Councilmember Nelsie Yang. That is powerful because it's a testament to the kind of future we want to build, where we are centering working class people and making sure that we're actually addressing the problems that impact and devastate our communities every day in the 4th District.
Yeah, I know that's significant endorsement. Mm-hmm. Any word from DFL?
Yeah, so I am a proud DFLer. I've worked for the party, as you know, and our endorsement process is not until later. We have a caucus and a convention process that will begin on February 1st, but I'm very excited and hoping to get, of course, my party's endorsement. That is what we're aspiring to have eventually.
We are eager to see that, and
thank you.
Hopefully the endorsement comes sooner than later. The most important part of your campaign, tell us your campaign promises. What do you do in terms of economy, jobs, and foreign policy, defense, healthcare? Do you continue the current trend, or do you have any innovative idea which you can do differently?
Yeah, absolutely. So my vision is, my campaign platform is a new vision for Minnesota. Now, what that means is we don't do politics as usual. Politics as usual has left a lot of our working class families, a lot of our new immigrants, and a lot of Americans, right, who've been here for generations with lack of opportunity and access to the American dream. Now, for me, that means my top priorities and my agenda, which is economic justice, which means folks are able to afford health care, right? I believe in Medicare for all, which means everybody, every American with opportunity to have access to health care. that eases the burden, right, that a lot of families feel, because a lot of families can't pay for a lot of prescription drugs. They're having to decide between whether to pay rent or for health care. We want to ease that burden. That is one of my top priorities. In addition to that, making sure that we have unionized jobs, right, so that everybody has access to working, but to be able to take care of their families, pay for expenses. So I'm a major union person, and so that's a priority as well. In addition to that, right, we have to fight for a $15 standard bare minimum wage. We know that as our economy, as it is right now, folks are able to afford food at the bare minimum, especially post-pandemic. We can't rely on politics as usual, where we're not prioritizing the fact that people need a good paying job. They need to have access to being unionized, right? And so those are also very important within the economic justice lens, right? And in addition to that, it's making sure that we are addressing the climate catastrophe. We have this one planet. We have not had leadership really prioritize where we should be headed. One of my top policies is to make sure that we're advocating for a Green New Deal, transitioning so that we don't just save our planet, but we give people access to green jobs, access to future jobs that will sustain us, but also sustain our families and the future generation. In addition to that, racial justice is a priority. A lot of us as immigrants, we're truly privileged to have the opportunity that we have now. But we know that structural racism that has been devastating a lot of our Black, Brown, and Indigenous communities for a very long time, particularly in my district, right, where we have a large population of the African American community, that has been robbed of the generational wealth, right, that have been robbed of a lot of opportunities, which is why I want to make sure that I tackle the criminal justice system, right, so that we can dissect it and we can have a system that is truly a reflection of the America that, you know, we come here hearing about, which is a land of opportunity, right? A land where you come here and you are just as important as the next person. And I know that it's really important that we tackle our system that really upholds structural racism. Education is a top priority. I know that the best way we can pave a better future for our future generation is through education. I believe in making sure that folks have access to childcare, right? Because we want to make sure that we're building healthy communities. And so when I say progressive, what I mean is taking care of and prioritizing the working class families, making sure that everybody has access to the American dream. And I've always said my agenda is the 4th District. We have been ignored for so long. We have been a second plan, as I call it. We need to be the first agenda. We need to take care of families. We need to make sure our neighbors are good. And we need to make sure that we are defeating poverty. And the best way to do that is progressive policies, a new vision for Minnesota that is going to move us forward.
Thank you. I know you ran against the current incumbent Congresswoman. And what do you do differently? What didn't she do correctly right now?
I'll tell you what I'll do differently. I'm an organizer. When I first came here, this was my first home, and ever feeling safe. There's love in everything that I do, and I think that's why we become organizers. We've had conversations with folks over the past 10 years about where we should be headed. We have status quo politicians who go to Washington and decide that, a working class family's agenda, we're going to get to that eventually, right? Not today. That's not going to be how I will lead. I believe in making sure that we're addressing the immediate needs, especially post-pandemic. A lot of our families, a lot of Senate districts within our congressional district are struggling. Families are not able to make it. I will prioritize working class families. In addition to that, I believe in the American dream. When I first came here, the first document I read was the Federalist Papers, right? And the documentation that states that we all have this opportunity to access the American dream. And so the way I lead is ensuring that that's a reality for everybody. And so a focus on the district, a focus on our agenda, because we have to take care of our home, and we have not seen that kind of leadership. And I'm not taking corporate PAC money, right? I'm not taking big pharma money, right? Or the military industrial complex or other PACs. Why? Because as an organizer, as a campaign professional, as somebody who has fought to make sure that we elect progressives up and down the ballot, I know what we're up against when we go to Washington. That means we have to make sure that we're sourced and powered by people, and we have to make sure that we're prioritizing our district, which is something that I will do. I'm a member of this community. I grew up as a community organizer, and to me, it's such a special place. It's such a special district. It's time that we have leadership that will get the job done in Washington. And I am a new generation of upcoming leadership, because I want to prioritize the working class. I want to empower the middle class, because I know when our neighbors are thriving, we're all going to thrive. And that's how we get to build the democracy that we talk about building every year.
Yeah, being myself an immigrant, I have younger kids, and you probably, if you win this seat, and you will be a role model to our daughters out there.
And they're a role model to me, right? They're my inspiration.
Yeah. As an immigrant and other immigrants here, we have multiple barriers. Probably because of your hard work, you are one of the successful persons around.
We're getting there.
So how do you work for us if you win this seat and bridge the gap between marginalized, especially immigrants, and how do you remove these multiple barriers to employment, access to healthcare, and access to other social safety nets?
Absolutely. As you mentioned, I'm a marginalized voter. I have been an organizer. I'm a renter. I have lived paycheck to paycheck. I come from a working class family. I have seen poverty, but I've also seen opportunities. And that's what America's all about, is that we strive for better, and we prioritize these issues, and we get the job done, and all can have access to this dream. And the main reason why I am focusing on economic justice as a pursuit, racial justice as a pursuit, climate justice as a pursuit, is because I know all of these issues disproportionately, right, impact low-income folks, new immigrants, Black, Brown, and Indigenous communities. And I see the role of government, right, in being able to mitigate those issues and being able to address those issues. If we can't do that, we can't be representatives. We can't have a democracy, right? And in this effort to build the American dream, as somebody who is from the community, as somebody who has a vested interest in all of the issues you mentioned, because I've been there, I'm still in there, right? I, have always said that I'm seeking to represent the 4th Congressional District because I have a lived experience of what it means to be working class, what it means to live paycheck to paycheck. And so I don't have to do research on those struggles. I've lived it. I've seen my family live it. I've seen my community live it. And the main reason why we're prioritizing these issues is because we know that they're immediate. We know that they're urgent. And not only a few of us can have access to the American dream, all of us should. And so I will lead with the priorities I mentioned to you, which is the priorities of my district, the priorities of folks like us, the priorities of everybody.
Thank you. Yeah, I believe your district, our district, is a priority, but
absolutely.
I will take you back to the injustices in the economy, in the socio-economic ecosystem.
Right.
And it's all interrelated, interlinked.
Absolutely.
When the poverty is high, there is a crime down there, and law enforcement involvement, and there is mistrust between law enforcement and the general public, especially the minorities or the marginalized people. So how do you address at the national level, at the ecosystem?
So my role, both as a candidate, or what I know for a fact should be the role of any representative, is you have to solve problems in your district. Okay. When folks don't have access to opportunities, when they don't have access to basic necessities, which is housing, right? Being able to feed yourself, having access to health care. When that is a struggle, and when you're trying to make a payment for a medical bill that's over $100K, but you make wage where, you can't even make that in 5 years. It's nearly impossible, right? Our economy is one that is prioritizing the elite. And when we have career politicians who go to Washington, they stay there for quite a while and get lost in that system, our district loses. Who's paying attention to a mom that has to take care of 3 kids, but yet has to work 3 jobs? There's no daycare. And so she's in this middle cycle of poverty that's never ending. And absolutely, all of these issues are interconnected, right? Which is why we believe in breaking that chain, which is why we say, regardless of your background, doesn't matter, us as immigrants, or you've been here for many generations, our pursuit is the same. We want to take care of our families. We want to have a thriving community. We want our small businesses to thrive, right? I want that access to being a homeowner, and I know everybody in our district does, and I don't believe in the scarcity, right? The politics of scarcity. And so what I believe is really important in this time is to make sure that we have a member of the working class, somebody who understands the issues, but somebody who's going to be accountable to the district and not the status quo.
Now we come to the grassroots. Minnesota is diverse.
It is.
Diverse in population, in age group, and there
Right.
are a lot of minorities and marginalized people.
Right.
What is your strategy to reach out to all of them to secure their vote?
Absolutely. My strategy is people power building. I'm an organizer, and so I believe in that. It's really important that we have every member of our community. It's a huge district, right? We're talking about all of Ramsey County and parts of Washington counties. All of them are equally important to me. And so, of course, we know as marginalized voters that there are systemic ways of keeping us out. I know that. I happen to be a part of that community. I want to make sure that everybody has access to participating in our campaign. We are not just focused on certain voters in certain areas and certain zip codes. We're focused on bringing the agenda of the 4th district to every member of the 4th district. Our strategy is to turn out as many people as possible. Our strategy is to get people to believe in the power of their vote. That restoration and believe in democracy, American democracy again, is where you know that you're cared for. You know whoever is running is prioritizing you and your needs. They're listening to you. They're bringing your lived experience to Washington eventually. And as an organizer, I will prioritize everybody. I know why some of our folks are left out. And what we have to do is to make sure that we are ensuring everybody that our door is open. Our door is open to building a new vision for Minnesota. And we're going to do it in a strategic way, of course, but I want to make sure that nobody's left out.
How do you convince middle-aged Caucasian woman who lives in Woodbury, in Cottage Grove? How do you work for them, for all of them, and how do you work for all rather than to what we were talking about?
That's a question I get all the time, and I wonder why we have that question because
we ask for the other
right. It's the standard. It's a standard question. Here's my response.
I ask her, why do I vote for you? What do you do for me?
Yeah.
So everybody will ask you.
Absolutely. Here's my response. A middle-aged white woman in Woodbury is an American. She's a member of my community. She cares about all the things we care about. Healthcare, making sure that we have good education for our families. Representation and going to Washington to represent your community doesn't mean you don't completely care about folks in the suburbs or other areas. That's absurd. What it means is we're making sure that all of our neighbors are taken care of. Making sure that we build a new vision for Minnesota where everybody has access to healthcare, where we're building an economy that is future-centered, an economy that uplifts everyone, an economy that gives us a very healthy and thriving community. I say that a middle-aged white woman who lives in Woodbury and a middle-aged black woman, or a millennial like me, I'm 31, who lives in downtown St. Paul, we care about the same issues. And it's all about knowing and having that conversation and saying, hey, you're not going to be left out because your community is thriving. One of my top priorities is to empower the middle class. And we know that a lot of folks, especially post-pandemic, have been hit hard, right? It's not just low-income folks. A lot of people are struggling. And in our effort to build the America that I know we can have, the America that I knew we would have when I came here as a kid, right, with just dreams and hope for the future, I know we can get there. And I know ultimately organizing together, turning people out, making them see in a bolder vision, right, where your representative goes to Washington to serve your interest, your collective interest. I'm running to represent the 4th Congressional District, not a certain group or a certain area, but I do prioritize a lot of the issues that are devastating our communities, because I know if I'm good, she'll be good as well.
Yep, that's good to start outreach and convince them
absolutely
as soon as possible. And probably down the road, when you refine your policies, you might include into or look into maternity leave. And,
absolutely. The 4th District agenda.
Issue,
absolutely.
And
it's all a priority.
All about that.
Absolutely.
Well, this is opinion. Do you expand Obamacare, or you want to change?
I want for all of us to have access to health care, for all of us to have health care. My top priorities are Medicare for all, and so we're going to get there. I really believe in it, and I will work with my district in conversation with folks in my district to make sure that we are fighting for Medicare for all. So I'm excited to do that with everybody.
Great. Before we go to the foreign policy, let me ask you what did you do so far to reach out to grassroots to raise funds for this campaign? I know it needs a lot of resources.
So as you know, I've always said money in our politics is one that has kept a lot of people out of the race to represent their communities, right? It's really challenging. And so we are a people and grassroots powered campaign. We're relying on people. We're relying on communities that want us to serve them, right? Working class families, middle class families that we know are struggling as well. And those that share our vision for a progressive future, right? Sometimes it's not your income status. It is that you care for the well-being of your community. And in this America that I hope we are going to continue to build and to have is a vision where just because you have something doesn't mean you ignore your neighbors who have nothing, right? You want your neighbors to do good. You want your neighbors to do well. So we are not taking money from those major interests, major PACs, right? I'm focused on making sure that we're getting investment from those we will prioritize in Washington. A working class agenda. We want to empower the middle class. We want to strengthen our democracy. We want to get to a place where we have a thriving district, a thriving state, a thriving country. And that takes all of us to believe in that new vision for our state.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, great state. Minnesota is the 3rd best place to move in, this year. And I just...
Yeah, we want to make that a thing for everybody, right? Not just a certain group, but for everybody. We can definitely get there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wish America, if you win this seat, America reflects America,
Absolutely.
Everybody.
Absolutely.
And probably my viewers might ask this question too. Your views, your American foreign policy towards Africa, particularly in Ethiopia, and what you probably read from mainstream media, from CNN and other outlets about the current issues in the Horn of Africa, Ethiopia. Just in short, what is your reflection on that?
Yeah, so I am, I'm a former refugee.
Yeah, I know.
I know it's like to be displaced. I am an international leader on human rights. I've, have advocated for human rights my whole life. My policy is one that centers all of us. I want thriving communities. I want a thriving country. And I want everybody, regardless of where they live, to have equal opportunities and to lead dignified lives. And so I will lead in that effort in the 4th District as well.
That's great. One personal question.
Yeah.
Before I let you go. What worries you in the night when you go to bed?
Right. What worries me is what worries every American, everybody that lives here. I'm a renter, and so I worry, am I going to make enough to be able to continue to pay for rent? Am I going to make student loan debt, student loan payments? I have a lot of student loans, like millions of other other folks across the nation. I worry about what's going to happen next month, especially with the pandemic, with regards to employment. I worry about my families, who many take on several jobs and are trying to feed their families. I worry about the state of our democracy, especially after what we've seen in this 2020 circus that we saw. I worry about the many attempts to take away our right to vote in certain communities. I worry about our community actually, getting the chance to show up and participate, right? A lot of us are either working how many jobs and, it's not accessible. And so I worry about all of those things that I think a lot of us worry about. And we have to be in a place where we're not up at night wondering if we're going to make our bills. And that's why we're doing this, right? It's not an easy endeavor. But I really believe that it's time for us to change the fact that we have to stay up at night wondering if we're going to have shelter.
Thank you for your time, and I wish you all the best in your future campaign.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With this, we come to the end of our today's show. And if you want to donate, to volunteer, go to amaneforcongress.com, where you can donate money, where you can go and volunteer, and where you can read about her campaign promises. And thank you for watching. Goodbye.
OROMIA11.